Good morning, everyone.
Dobrý den, dámy a pánové.
Bonjour à tous.
Terve, miten menee?
Labadiana.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Welcome to Strasbourg, the capital of Europe.
So we are here today not just to represent our country, Italy, but also the whole Europe, because united in our differences, we can make Europe a better place.
The adults always say that we young people don't do enough to fight for our rights. Here we are today to show that we want to be an active part of Europe, especially for our future.
Thank you for your attention and for giving us the opportunity of being here today.
And also, do not forget to come and vote, because your vote can really make a change.
And as we always like to say in the Netherlands, you.
So, good morning, bonjour, guten Tag, doppel den. So I hope that you have a good period, a good time in Strasbourg. Ich hoffe, dass die
I hope that the schools here from Europe will be having a nice time in Strasbourg. For 15 years I've been a member of the European Parliament, and you in your assembly will be dealing with many of these questions. I have been a member of the Greens group in the European Parliament for a long time, and so we have been addressing many issues over the last 15 years. I will really do my best to answer your questions, and I hope that at the end, when you leave Strasbourg today, you will feel far more committed to the European project.
Ich bin gerade 18 geworden.
I'm just 18, and I will be voting in the European elections for the first time. Could you give me some recommendations? What issues should I be focusing on, do you think, with a view to voting for the first time in the European elections? Well, it's no secret, I imagine. I am very committed, pro-European. I think that one of the best decisions ever taken by politicians in Europe was the decision to unite European countries by enabling them to express their interests in common in the EU, and to defend those interests in common in the EU as a solution and a way of avoiding a war. As to voting, I suppose, I would vote for those parties who are in favour of Europe sitting around the European table. Europeans can then come together around the table to thrash out their issues and their interests, to reach a compromise. I think that is the most fundamental thing, really, with a view to maintaining the peace that we have. Parties that question that and challenge that threaten peace and security. And that's what I think they want. I think that the alternative to peace and security would be the loss of security and peace, of course, but you can look around and see the other challenges facing us as well. For example, look at the guarantees for security in neighbouring countries around the EU, then there is the question of the climate agreement signed in Paris a few years ago. How do we achieve and implement what was agreed? What is our approach in relation to non-democrats in our EU countries? I think that we can come up with solutions better together. You might have the individual countries in the EU. You have Germany as a giant country really in the EU, but I would say that the individual solutions found by individual countries will never be as good as common solutions found by the EU. I don't know whether you've been following what happened last night in the Council in relation to the UK. I think that this is a very positive situation now, because I think it shows how good the EU is at finding compromises that can gain the support of all members. We've had the problem with Brexit. We've got the British Parliament that seems unable to agree on anything, although that British Parliament is only representing one country. But I think that at EU level we have become very good at finding compromises, and that is a very good thing, I think, for Europe and beyond.
My question comes from legislation to do with whistleblowers. My name is Alisher Ahmed, just by the way. Can any extra measures be taken to protect whistleblowers?
Das versuchen wir.
Well, we're trying. The European Parliament has achieved something in this respect, not enough perhaps, but our experience over the recent years has been that there have been these scandals that have been harmful, and we wouldn't have been able to discover those without whistleblowers. If you think about the LuxLeaks and how that was disclosed, I think these are examples of how necessary it is to protect whistleblowers.
So I'm Rosa Tuimala from Finland, and I'm also asking about climate change. So we are talking about the acts we are going to do in the future, but climate change has been in our knowledge for such a long time. So why haven't EU done any big, remarkable, like preventing actions in the past? Thank you.
Also, ich glaube, es ist falsch.
I think it's wrong, actually, to say that nothing has happened. It's correct that not enough has been done, and it's true that we are doing less than we could be doing. Now, what has slowed us down is skepticism. As there are people, politicians, who think that climate change isn't man-made, that actually something that we've always had. The majority don't think that, perhaps, but the problem is that we have different interests, and we assess our different interests differently as well. Let me give you the example of the car industry. Now, if we were to switch quickly to smaller cars, to electric cars, we would actually have a problem, because far fewer people would be needed to manufacture the cars, and far fewer people will be needed to repair the cars. So how do we go about it? Because Of course, we want employment, and there are a lot of people employed in the car industry currently. A lot of people are dependent directly and indirectly on the car industry. So how do we make that switch to a more environmentally friendly approach? There are difficulties here. Now, I think we could be achieving that switch more quickly, but the majority perhaps don't agree with me on that. What's very important for young people who are more actively involved in combating climate change, is that they're not ignoring this issue. They are much more committed and involved, and that's going to be very important for bringing about change. Now, the energy transition in Germany is very important. Of course, it's not just a case of withdrawing from nuclear energy, though. It's a case of developing a new renewable energies, developing those energies much more, so that the jobs that were lost in the nuclear industry will be actually replaced by jobs in relation to the renewable energies. These environmental issues need to be addressed together with other issues, and we have this threat of climate change. We need to agree together on how we can shape our future. It's going to be very important. There are many different approaches that could be taken, and I think, and there are many examples that can be taken, but the car industry is a particularly tense example, I would say.
We discussed a lot of things, but we came up with changing the habits that people have, which is not going to be that easy. Raising the awareness, of course, and those influencers, let's say on Facebook or Instagram, they should not be dealing with just fashion. They should be dealing with raising the awareness in people's minds, talking about recycling, talking about the global problems that we're dealing with right now. Another thing that we talked about was making people see the change, because if we're made to do something and we don't see the results in it, we're not going to continue to do it now, will we? So this is a good thing as well. And the most important thing, which I'm going to say in conclusion right now, we should make people feel responsible for what they do to the planet, because it's not somebody else. We are the people that are destroying the world around us. Thank you.
Talked about a lot of issues, and the first one was gender equality. We support legislation, all of us in our committee, especially on wage gaps and discrimination in hiring. However, we would not support a quota, as it would not necessarily be beneficial in our opinion. The second topic we talked about was gay marriage. And we promote legislation in all member states to make sure that gay marriage would be legal in all member states. The third topic we talked about was voting. We had the idea that if in a year there is an election, for example, you are 17 right now, but will be turning 18 this year, and in May there's a vote, and in July you'll be 18, that you will still be allowed to vote in that year for that election. The fourth topic we talked about was cybersecurity. We do think it should be strengthened, but it shouldn't be strengthened when we would be preventing fundamental rights, such as right of freedom of expression, to be limited. So we would not support that. Instead, we would support education on use of the internet, for example, or especially on often misrepresented topics, we would have some education instead of limiting the use of the internet, for example.
during the debate, the first thing we were to discuss is how to get young people to vote. And the overwhelming most common suggestion was social media, because if young people use social media so much, if you merely presented them with, you should vote in something that they spend so much time on, it would really speak to them. And another thing that was put forward was that influencers, such as, celebrities and YouTubers and stuff like that, would tell people to vote and encourage that. We also said that the EU should make its purpose very clear and show the citizens what it funds, so it doesn't look like some esoteric organization that has nothing to do with the citizens of Europe.
So the first point, people complain a lot about the economic gap between countries in the Northern Europe and countries, for example, in Eastern Europe or Southern Europe. Also, economic gap and also a lot of inequality between, for example, health insurance. Not all countries have the same health insurance, therefore some people who live in a certain country may not be able to receive the proper treatment, and they would have to go to some other country. So the solution for that, they said that the economic gap is not only, but mainly due to corruption. So they said that one of the solutions for this problem would be more common policies that all countries should have to accomplish, as well as some checkups in countries regularly, having more restrictions. So, for example, taking up in countries after certain time to see if they did any corrupt work. They should be restricted. They should have to pay a certain amount of money, or even warnings to get out of the EU.
Our commission worked on many proposals which may be relevant to this assembly, such as establishing a concept called inclusive city. It can be a city which lies on developing a social cohesion, developing a sense of belonging, or even emphasizing on inclusion. Moreover, immigrants may face problems with language, culture, and jobs, or even discrimination, which may lead to ghettos. Exclusion from urban infrastructure and social services must be avoided, in which we can work on this inclusive city, such as changing the urban planning, for example, create a society which is open-minded and secure.
So, if the question is youth employment a challenge to Europe? The answer is yes. And it is so because youth employment is nothing else than a projection of the balance of our society. The problem is that although Europe is already taking steps to face the phenomenon of youth unemployment, such as creating the Youth Guarantee Commitment and Erasmus+, we, the youth, are not aware of them. This means that in order to reduce the percentage of unemployed young people, European Union must promote these programs. The second topic we discussed was the opportunities that are given to the youth. We think that European Union should offer more opportunities and through the educational system promote student skills. This can be done by organizing different courses, competitions, and volunteering programs. Also, providing to the youth the chance of internship through the educational system will help them stand out in the market and easily find a job. Last but not least, we believe that the working groups under the age of 18 should have access to a more flexible working schedule. By taking all these steps, we believe that the young people would be capable to decide, choose, adapt, and carve out their own future. Thank you.